Hello, everyone, and welcome. We'll get started in just a moment as people continue to log in. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We're excited to have you here, and we'll get started momentarily. For those just joining, welcome. We'll begin shortly once everyone has had a chance to connect. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome to the Nomadar Corp Investor Webinar. My name is Richard Land, Managing Director at Alliance Advisors, and I will be your moderator for today. I'm joined on today's webinar by Carlos Lacave, Nomadar Chief Financial Officer, and Joaquin Martin, the company's Chief Communications and IR Officer. Carlos and Joaquin will first review the company's investor presentation. Following that, we will open the webinar up to a moderated question and answer session. If you have a question, you can submit it in the Q&A box located at the bottom section of your Zoom screen. With that, I'm happy to introduce Joaquin Martin, who will begin the review of the presentation. Joaquin, please go ahead.
Thank you, Richard, and thank you everyone for joining. Welcome. Carlos Lacave, Chief Financial Officer, and myself. We welcome you. We have come for this webinar actually to Cadiz Club de Football Stadium, Nuevo Mirandilla, over here in Spain, south of Europe. And we will review and we will give you a little overview about the company ahead of our upcoming Nasdaq listing. So let's start. Let's go straight to the point. Probably all of us, we know that soccer is the #1 sport in the world. 43% of the global sports market is soccer. And who is leading the industry? Basically 5 leagues. La Liga in Spain, Premier League, Bundesliga in Germany, Italy, and France. The #1 in terms of sports performance and profitability is La Liga. All of us, we know that Premier League is #1 in terms of revenues. At the same time, is the #1 in terms of losses. So #1 is La Liga and #2 is Bundesliga. And Cadiz Club de Football is a 115-year-old history professional soccer team of La Liga between first division and second division. Nomadar Corp is the technological and innovation arm of Cadiz Club de Football. What is the general context? To give you a general context, La Liga itself in the last 5 years, it's in a strategy of expansion, international expansion, and generation of different revenue lines, encouraging the teams. And Cadiz Club de Football itself is in that strategy and has been in that strategy for the last 3-4 years. That's where Nomadar Corp comes to the stage. Nomadar Corp is at the intersection of health, tourism, through sports and technology. Actually, the word Nomadar is the fusion of nomad and artificial. Nomad to recover the physical activity and the benefits for health that the physical activity has for the human being. When we became sedentary and we stopped being nomads, we lost that physical activity. So we are here to recover health and physical activity. I'm going to give you a little overview of the main business lines. You have here the slides that you can see with different sizes in terms of the different importance of each line. We have what you have here, Sport Tech City. It's a real estate project in development of a multi-purpose event center. It will be the location in the south of Europe. It's a venue for all kind of events, musical, sports, cultural, and it's in the MyC tourism. I will give you more detail in a following slide, but just that's one of the main lines. Second line is what we call high performance training program, HPT program, okay? It's a program where we welcome young athletes from around the world, has been already running for 3-4 years by Cadiz Club de Football, and Nomadar Corp took over the program at the end of 2024. Again, I will give you more details shortly. And probably many of you will know Mágico González. Mágico González, he's a legend in terms of soccer. Any soccer fan, especially Latin soccer fans, he's from El Salvador. He's and he played at the same time than Maradona. Actually, Maradona said about him, there is only one player in the world that plays better than me. His name is Mágico, and he's in Cadiz. Okay, Nomadar has the worldwide rights for the brand Mágico González, and we have different actions already planned to around the brand. Again, more details coming. And at the bottom left, you'll see there soccer academies, and we are in a strategy of potential acquisitions. We have been working for the last 1.5 years to 2 years internationally in different countries, identifying potential soccer academies to be integrated in our ecosystem. So these are the lines, and let me give you next some highlights. You have here several, but I'm gonna put emphasis in a couple of them or three. One is the diverse portfolio that we have. That reduces risks in terms of being in a specific niche, and at the same time, something very important for our model. One is the cross-selling. We are identifying opportunities of sports and tourism, cross-promotion and cross-selling. And the other one is the application of technology and our digitalization model. That is something very important, as we will see shortly, because we combine the in-person experience with the digital experience. Okay, that's one highlight. The other is the international position that we have, because we operate between US and Europe. And at the same time, we visualize a triangle with bridges connecting North America, Latin America, and Europe. And another highlight is the financial support that we have from our majority shareholder, with a commitment of 10 million contribution in the first 18 months, plus a SIPA agreement that we have with Yorkville Advisors. We signed that, so there's a commitment there if we need it, up to 30 million. So those are some of the highlights. Next, I would like to go to the next slide and to give you some detail about the management and the executive leadership. As you can see here, Rafael Contreras, he's co-owner of Cadiz Football Club, and he's CEO and co-chair of Nomadar, co-chair of the board of directors. Carlos Lacabe and myself, and you know us already. And I would also like to highlight Manuel Vizcaíno. He's also the co-owner of Cadiz and co-chair of the board of directors of Nomadar. That means that the commitment, again, from Cadiz Football Club and the support to make Nomadar a success is real. Of course, Antonio Lobon and Javier Sanchez, they are references international in terms of taxes and legal. And also probably many of you know Peter Moore. Peter Moore was former CEO of Liverpool Football Club, and he has been vice president global for many tech companies, Reboot, Microsoft. He created a Sega video game. So we're very happy to have him in the project. He knew about Nomadar around 1 year ago, and he decided to join. So it's a solid and strong executive and management staff that we have. Just to give you 2 or 3 points of where we're coming from, where we are, and where we're going to. As I said, the strategy of the expansion has been for the last around 3 years. Nomadar Corp was incorporated in 2023. And in 24, at the end of 24, we took over the HPT program, that first business activity. We have been running in parallel the building of the business, and the preparation of the company to go public. This is not the first company that the management takes public, so we know the whole process, and we decided to make that effort. In 2025, we have signed some key agreements with both Cadiz and with the majority shareholder, with the Sport City Cadiz, in terms of the licensing for Mágico González and the land where the project, the real estate project, is being developed. Right now, at the end of 2025, we're going to be the first professional soccer team in Spain listed in Nasdaq. And we will be launching in Q4 the first of the action for Mágico González, which is an e-commerce focused on US, as in phase one. Between 26 and 2030, we are developing the real estate project. Right now, we are in administrative phase with permits. And at the end of 2026 is scheduled the construction to start. And at the end of 2030, the operations will start running for the real estate project. We'll go to the next slide. And I will give you a little more detail about the Sportech City. As I said, it's a strategic location. It's the south of Europe, 300 plus days per year of sunny days. And in a very touristic region like this, Andalusia, the south of Europe, the south of Spain. As I said, 110,000 square meters for a multi-purpose event center. An added value of this is that the fact that it's designed from zero allows us to implement from the beginning the requirements that the top one, top two concerts organizers in the world and top one, top two world event organizers, they have for the people and for the companies that we want to host those concerts or those events. So we are able and very flexible to host between 100 and different events at the same time. We have a commercial area, culinary space, hotel, sports clinic. So everything is around that. In Europe, we will be a unique location and a unique venue like this. Only probably in the north of Europe, there is another one like this. So this is one of the projects for you to visualize. This is a real estate project, and at the same time, we have the running business already active. The next one, I would like to give you a little more detail about, in the next slide, the HPT program, the High Performance Training Program. It's a 360 degrees because it implies nutrition, psychological, training with the methodology, the own methodology that Cadiz applies for the first team and the academy. Again, it's very important because so far we have been implementing the in-person experience. Right now, we are in the middle of the digitalization that we will be launching in the beginning of 2026 of the program. And this is very important because we are all the time combining both experiences. We have been, for the last 2 or 3 years, receiving players from US, Japan, Germany, and we are opening new markets as well. So again, these are between 12 and 18 years, young athletes, and coming to Cadiz to train and to get integrated into the academy. The other line that as I said, we go to the next slide, is the e-commerce around Mágico González. Again, it's the first action. We will be launching this action in this Q4 2025. And we have identified, obviously, the main soccer hubs in US, New York, Florida, California, Chicago, Texas, that actually, obviously, any soccer fan knows Mágico González, and the brand is very powerful. The being from El Salvador, being a Latin player, a reference, actually these soccer hubs in US where we will target are at the same time Latin soccer hubs. So we will be addressing the numbers. The numbers are positive for this target. We go to the next slide, please, and just a little overview of some references of some peers. We have here Sphere for a venue for events, CR7, IMG that many of you you will know for educational. So as you see, some of them like IMG, they have a global geographical presence. Others like Sphere, they have the backed by sector experts, the back support. And others like CR7, they have the rights of a global presence, a global sports. If you see Nomadar with those different lines that we have seen and we are describing, we integrate all those lines at the same time that we're creating the cross-selling and cross-promotions. And with our listing, upcoming listing, we will be the only one freely tradable. So it's an added value in different elements. We go to the next one and some just little figures about two main sectors. Tourism sector, the MICE sectors, as you see, 1.3 trillion by 28 in terms of market value and 21.3% of annual compound growth rate. That's for the MICE sector. And at the same time, the intersection goes with the global sports. It's 260 billion annual revenue projected by 2033 and a 5% of annual compound growth rate. So the trends of the sectors, the macro figures are very positive, and we are combining those elements, the back of the brand, such as Cadiz Football Club and La Liga, and those strategic sectors that we combine and we all the time are crossing each other. Going towards the end, just to emphasize some elements that drive the growth, to optimize the growth. We have spoken about them. One is the partnership expansion, the cross-selling opportunities, and the online HPT program in terms of the digital and technology. We have here the Soccer Academy acquisitions that we have spoken already about that. And I'm going to pause there before passing the word to Carlos Lacabe to speak a little about the numbers. But this is a little overview about the business of the company. So now I'm going to pass the word to Carlos for him to give a little view about the numbers.
Hi, I'm Carlos. I'm the Chief Financial Officer of Nomadar. And just give you a flavor about the numbers. I would like to focus on the high gross margin. We think there are two main drivers for that high margin. First is the HPT in person, which is a highly margin service. And also, it has contributed the events and concert. As Joaquin pointed out before, it was launched in anticipation, and we have found it to be a highly margin service too. We think it's also important to say how the stockholders' equity evolved from first quarter to second quarter. Its strength, its position, that's thanks to the agreement we reached with Cadiz Club de Football, which let us let that happen. Also, we would like to talk about three important things. First, we believe the HPT digital, the digitalization of the HPT will let us scale the business of it and grow, so that will add strong revenues. Also, the events and concert, it's been planning for the upcoming season with and the activity is also gonna be very it's gonna add a lot of revenues into the income statement. And finally, the Mágico González launch will be by the end of the year, and we also expect to get revenues out of that. Also, we should say that the agreement with the main shareholder, Sport City Cadiz, the contribution agreement for 10 million within the next 18 months will give us breathe in the operational side. So we will be able to develop and to digitalize the HPT and will give us lead time to stabilize the business. I don't know if now
let me because he was mentioning about the concerts and events, and it's true because it's a line I didn't mention that it's a line that we anticipated. We had a line of concerts and events that it was thought for the multipurpose event center, and we decided to anticipate because Cadiz Club de Football is playing in a 20,000 seat stadium right now, Nuevo Mirandilla, where we are right now. And we decided this summer 2025, to anticipate that line with national artists and international artists. We had, for example, this first year, Jennifer Lopez. It was a whole success. And also international groups such as Il Divo. So that's what Carlos was mentioning. And something that I think Carlos mentioned, the numbers that are here are for June 30th. And for example, this line, which is the concerts and events, it will be included in Q3, will be published in the following weeks. So that is something that it was remarkable to mention. I don't know if we can give the word to Richard, who will post there and open for any questions that the attendants can have. Richard.
Thanks, Carlos and Joaquin, for the presentation today. And thank you all for listening into today's call to learn more about the exciting developments at Nomadar. At this point, we'd like to open the floor to your questions for Carlos and Joaquin. Please feel free to ask anything you'd like to dive deeper into. As a reminder, if you have a question, please submit it in the Q&A box located at the bottom section of your Zoom screen. With that, we'll pause for a moment to collect your questions. All right, Carlos, Joaquin, the first question that we'll turn to is, why is Nomadar pursuing a direct listing on Nasdaq at this time?
Well, it makes sense. It's very easy. Why Nasdaq? Our background is tech companies and sports companies. Nomadar is a tech company, and Nasdaq is a natural market for tech companies. US is a US company. Nomadar Corp is a US company, and US actually is a natural market as well for entertainment and US sport. There is in this moment a very strategic moment with 2026 World Cup in US, 28 in Los Angeles, the Olympic Games, 2030 the World Cup in Spain. So it's the moment for us to go listing because we know what it is. As we said before, this is not the first public company. It's very demanding in terms of governance, transparency, and at the same time, it gives you international visibility. It gives you credibility, and it requires from you to hit the milestones that you plan. So it's a way of accelerating and getting the momentum at the same time that we get the international visibility that this project deserves and the dimension of this project have.
Oh, thanks for that. And so then, as a follow-up, after the direct listing, will the company need to conduct a capital raise? And if yes, like what would the trigger be for that capital raise?
Go ahead. Yeah, okay. No, we're not planning to raise any capital further after the direct listing, not in the short term, at least. We could say that we have the real estate project for the multi-event center that will be a project finance by itself. So that will be independent from the operations of the company. Regarding the operations of the company, we have the contribution for the next 18 months from Sport City Cadiz that will help us to run the operation smoothly, and on the other hand, will let us develop the digitalization and go for the further scalability of the ongoing business. So no, the answer would be we're not planning in the short term to go for that capital raise.
Thank you, Carlos. And I think one more just to maybe tie up some of the questions that are coming in related to the direct listing. How many shares will be available for trading at the time of the listing? And as a follow-up on that, what percentage of the company will be held by the insiders post-listing?
Okay, there will be roughly 12.3 million A shares of the company listed. Out of that, I would say 3.9 million will be held by the free float. That's about 31%. And then there will be held by the insiders. I think there are 57% of the remaining shares will be held by Sport City Cadiz, 6% will be held by Cadiz Club de Fútbol, and 6% will be held by directors, officers, and relatives. That's roughly 69% of the shares. Those shares will be attached to a lockup agreement, a 1-year lockup agreement. The main shareholder wants to show their long-term vision and their commitment to actually remain actively close to the growth of the company within the next months, years. So that's basically it.
Thank you, Carlos. So not surprising, we've received this question, but what is the path to profitability for Nomadar, and what are the key milestones that will be needed to achieve positive cash flow?
Okay, this period until we go listed, the numbers show obviously the expenses related with the work, the preparatory work to go listed. So now that we are listed, actually, the expenses and the numbers will be the ones of the business. We have already active the HPT program in person. We have active the concerts and events, and we will have active launching at the end of the year the Mágico González e-commerce. So there are some milestones and triggers here in order to the one is the digitalization, which is for 26. That will give us the scalability in order of growing. So that's very strong. And another one is the positive trend that the business is having, because again, we started in the beginning of 2025, and we are opening new markets and new partners with the HPT. And another key here is you think that, for example, Cadiz Football Club has 65 million followers in their social networks combined. So the fan base for soccer, plus the power of brand Mágico González, with all those followers, combined with the digitalization and the scalability, are the triggers and the drivers in order to get those positive numbers. And at the same time, again, there is a before and after in the numbers linked to the go public. Okay.
Thank you, Joaquin. And I think this may be a natural follow-up from what you were just discussing. And the question is, what are the main sources of revenue for Nomadar? You kind of highlighted the HPT and the concert events and the pending e-commerce launch. But so what are, today, or we think about through the end of the year, what are the main sources of revenue for Nomadar, and what proportion does each of those sources contribute?
Okay. In terms of the main sources of revenues, obviously we have the HPT in person, which has been running for the last 3 years. So it's the core activity right now in the company. And we also, as we mentioned before, we recently launched the events and concerts. So I would say right now there's an 80% of revenues coming from the HPT and 20% coming from the events and concerts. In regards to the future for next year, as you mentioned, the launch of the e-commerce will give us the market for the Mágico González. Also, the development of the HPT digital will give us scalability with that business too. And after the experience of this current year, we are preparing next year's campaign for the events and concerts next summer, and we expect also a growth in revenues. So in total, we could say that we expect for next year around 60% HPT, 30% would be events and concerts, and 10% we calculate that would be the e-commerce Mágico González.
Let me complete the picture, because, for example, to give you kind of a vision of going forward, for the concerts and events in this first edition, in terms of international, we had, as I mentioned before, Jennifer Lopez, Il Divo, but we have announced, for example, for 2026, the two first artists for the concerts and events line. One is Aitana, she's a star in Spain, and she's having an international tour, and she announced already, I think it's July 12th, the concert in Cadiz. And another one, Liga, is another very well-known artist in Spain. He announced already the concert. So that's already, we are preparing already 2026. But to give you a big picture in terms of the drivers, the visualization here, as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, is a real estate project with the time and upside of the real estate project that it has. And at the same time, we have the business, which is already active with the HPT, with the concerts and events, and with the digitalization, including the HPT and Mágico, which has the positive trend and those triggers of digitalization and technological application. But those two kind of speeds and drivers, it's important to visualize in order to have the complete picture. A real estate project with their times and the upside of a proper real estate project, and the already ongoing business with the proper drivers and triggers for growth.
Thank you, Joaquin. And you actually we're just highlighting the real estate project, and one of the questions we got, I think people are the people on the call were looking for a little bit more clarity around, is the plan to own the real estate of the project outright, or is the focus just on staffing the center, owning the IP, the software, and the brand?
No. The real estate project is owned by Nomadar, and that's the idea. Not only running the show, running the IP, the development and the management and everything. It's a Nomadar project. Yeah.
Perfect, thanks. And I think what we've been discussing addresses this question, but another question we got was, how does Nomadar differentiate itself from the competitors, especially some of the more established brands in sports, entertainment, and tourism? Like how is Nomadar planning to be able to stand out and capture a larger share of those sectors?
I would say, if I may answer, I would say that you just said a more established business. Let's not forget that we're speaking about the 115-year institutions such as Cadiz Club de Football. We're speaking here about the #1 league in the world, which is La Liga. And we're speaking here about an innovation and technological project. But the fourth element that I would add is, as I mentioned before, there are other more established business, not institutions, business in some specific sectors, such as the venue, concerts, Madison Square Garden, Sphere, as I mentioned before, or in terms of sports, technology. There are in some specific sectors or niches, there are more established business. Let's not forget something. We're not starting from scratch, from zero. Technology application is already ongoing in Cadiz Football Club. digitalization is already ongoing. And we come here to extend everything to Nomadar, okay, in order in a natural way to give even a step forward in the development of applications. So what is the differentiation? I would say to combine the strength of the tradition and the strength of an institution with the speed of a technology company, and at the same time, our knowledge, not being the first time that we take a company go public and everything which is required there. So it's we are in the market, we are open, we are the people and the investors, they are the ones that are going to judge the performance. So it's a very powerful combination, which is the integration of some sectors that they are performed individually by a specific established businesses, and at the same time the challenge, and at the same time the opportunity and the strength of being out there in the street, in the podium, judged by our performance. So I think that's a powerful differentiation, and I emphasize the strength of the history and at the same time the knowledge for technology, innovation, and sports.
And no, that's great. And this seems to one of the questions we got that came in seems to be a natural follow-up to that, because you were mentioning the history of the Cadiz Football Club. So if you can just review again the major strategic partnerships as you did with the football club, but also how they support the growth, and how you see them supporting these partnerships, supporting the growth going forward.
Well, the support and the strategic partnerships, obviously being backed by Cadiz Club de Football, is already and belonging to La Liga, is already a very strong start there in terms of this is not an unknown entity backed by no one. We start from a very well established, serious and rigorous entities such as La Liga and Cadiz. And the other strategy is the majority shareholder, which is a Sport City Cadiz, owned 100% by Cadiz Club de Football, which give us the financial support for the beginning, and that's what allows us to go to a direct listing and not having the necessity or the pressure in order to raise money before going to direct listing. That gives us acceleration in terms of the execution of the plan. Out of there, obviously, we are working with some strategic partnerships. They are ongoing in terms of each specific sector that we work in. But in the moment zero, obviously, to have that support from Cadiz is obviously to start in a strong position.
Perfect. Thank you, Joaquin. We'll move on to some different topics. What's the plan to acquire and retain customers, both for the HBT program, maybe in person and digitally, and as well as for the Mágico Gonzalez brand?
Well, we have already three. We're having real cases. We have been running the HPT program for the last 3-4 years. Okay, and what's happening is that because we're working with athletes and players between 12 and 18 years, they are coming back here the next year. The program is flexible. You can enroll for 1 to 2 weeks to a whole season. So we are finding the cases in that sense that in the in-person program, we are having the cases that they repeat, and they want to keep enrolled in the program for their development. With the digitalization, it hasn't been launched, but obviously we are in the process. And in that process, we find ourselves also in the case that there are players that they come a couple of months, and then until they come again, those 4 months, those 8 months, they want to keep the contact. They want to keep the training, the follow-up. So in that sense, we have videos, we are preparing applications, and we are testing that with those. In terms of Mexico, again, the power of the brand is big. The momentum for the 26 World Cup and 2030 being here in Spain and precisely in a couple of cities in Latin America, that is something that we are aware of, and that is a driver for getting loyal customers, and for engagement. So those are the main drivers that we are finding not only from planning, but also from experience.
Some of the questions we got kind of dig in a little bit deeper on both the high performance training program and on the Mexico brand. So we'll go first to the question we have on the HPT program. What's the target market? And I think you were addressing this in your prior answer here, but what's the target market for the HPT program and the typical profile and age of the participants?
We are finding individuals that enroll in the program. We are having the cases of full teams, full squads, and also we are finding soccer academies. We have a whole range of different cases. Again, the age is between 12 and 18 when they are under 18, and their motivation is either development of the player, sometimes it's having an experience abroad and you are a soccer fan, and sometimes even teenagers around 16, 17, 15 years old, that they are getting ready for university, and obviously to having your curriculum, the experience and the track record of being trained by an elite club such as Cadiz, member of La Liga, that is something that counts for your curriculum to apply to a university. We have other cases, obviously, that we have people and players that they have professional aspirations and they want to get a push to their technique and being exposed to a La Liga team and being involved and being part of that. So that's the target for the HPT. We have individuals, and again, I think one strong value of the program is the flexibility. The flexibility in terms of length and the flexibility in terms of ways of enrollment. We are finding all those cases in our experience.
And then circling back to the digital e-commerce strategy, people, the questions want to know just a little bit more detail, like how scalable do you see this strategy to be, particularly for the Mexico Gonzalez brand, and what kind of evidence, proof points do you have out there that you gain traction in the kind of core target market? Again, Joaquin, I think you addressed this in the presentation and his historical presence in the Latin soccer world, but football, I apologize.
No. Totally. Obviously, the scalability of Mexico, as I described, we are in a phase 1, which is an e-commerce specifically for US. Have in mind that almost 100 million people play soccer in US, only that, as around 40 million Latin. And I said there are soccer hubs in US, which at the same time matches with the Latin hubs, what I mentioned before. So the power of the brand is one evidence of the scalability in terms of appearance, the history of Mexico and his values, his connection with young people and youth development. So that's one thing. So the strategy would be phase 1 for US, phase 2 in terms of the e-commerce for Latin America. There is a small test here in Europe, because Cadiz Club de Football, we have already launched the line of Mexico, clothes, merchandising, and having in mind the numbers. This is 100,000, 100,000 the city of Cadiz, 800,000 the province of Cadiz, which is very linked to Mexico, and the numbers are positive there. So if you scale that to there are more than 2 million Salvadorians in the US, 30 million Latin soccer fans. You scale those numbers, and if we go to Latin America. And number two, as I said, this is the first action, the e-commerce. After that, we have different actions such as clinics, campuses, even physical stores. But that's in the pipeline of different actions. Right now, we are in the process of focus on the digital world and getting the momentum and the opportunity of this trend of soccer in the US, specifically towards the World Cup in 2026.
Perfect. Thanks. We have just a few more questions, 2 more questions to get through. So one of them is what's the main risk facing Nomadar, be it from market, operational, regulatory, and what's the company's approach to mitigating these risks?
The risks are already public and published in the S1 in the different areas. Obviously, even with the support of Cadiz Football Club, this is a new listing, is a new company, so anyone can imagine the risks associated to and the challenge to a new company listed in such a competitive forum and market as Nasdaq and US is. So the risk is and the challenge to be known and to execute the plan. In terms of operations, we are internationally operating between US and Europe, and at the same time, the mitigation of that risk of, I wouldn't call it discoordination, but I would call it challenge, because different time and different projects coordinated and organized between 2 continents. To mitigate the mitigation, there is the experience of the management. It's a management that is used to manage, there are 65 million followers in Cadiz Club de Football around the world. And sometimes you have to manage that. The other part of that is the commitment of the staff, the culture. It's a culture which is not local. It's a culture, it's a company with a culture, corporate culture, international. So the risks are there, and the mitigation of them, it's experience, knowledge, work, and trying to anticipate what can happen. So that would be a little, but again, all the risks in a very transparent way are in the S1 published. So this is just pointing out a couple of them.
We're making the work easy for the people on the webcast rather than making them go easy filing. All right, so let's end on this question. I got asked a couple of different times in the queue here, and I will shout out that my friend Robert Routh, who I've known for a long time and have known him to ask the smart questions. All these questions have been great. The focus is what's the company's roadmap for expansion? So where and in what country are the biggest acquisition opportunities in terms and what business lines those would be, and what's the expected kind of milestones, or should we be thinking about some milestones post listing that we can kind of then put a check mark next to?
Okay, a couple of elements there in the question. In terms of the post-listing milestones, let's start for the end of the question. In terms of the post-listing milestones, as I described, there's the real estate project. It's in an administrative and permit phase, and there will be different milestones that it will be achieved and communicated along the road. So in the case of a real estate project, it's a very specific timing and achieving the different milestones there. Another milestones there, and that's connected with the expansion, is again the digitalization. Okay, we are, as I said, we have been already working, and the digitalization will be a milestone that will bring us the growth and the scalability. Have in mind that right now The experience for HPT is in person 100% with the different experiences that we are already having in a digital world. But having the opportunity of, regardless where you are in the world, in any of the continents and any country, you can be connected with Cadiz Nomadar, that own methodology, and to be receiving feedback. There we start combining the in-person. You start in person and go digital. You can start digital, but at the same time, you go in person. That cross-selling, cross-promotion, that is a trigger for growth. And getting for the roadmap for expansion and new markets, being very straight and very clear. We are again operating between US and Europe. Those are strategics, short term, for obvious reasons. And Cadiz is in Europe, and we combine and we build that bridge between North America. And when I say North America, also I'm speaking about Canada, which is another country that we have been traveling to, identifying opportunities, etc. And there also, so consolidation, short-term, midterm consolidation in the business in US and expanding there, expanding and consolidation. And obviously in a parallel way, but in a speed to Latin America. Those are the markets. Asia would be in a phase 2, phase 3, although we are already receiving players from Japan, and opportunities are being opened in Asia. But to be straight, phase 1, US, North America, the bridge, Europe, North America, phase 2, we complete with Latin America, and in a parallel way, we open Asia. The building of bridges takes time and work, and so let's consolidate bridge by bridge.
I'd say I think that's a great way to end the webinar, building the bridge by bridge. So thank you again to Carlos and Joaquin, and thank you to everyone for joining us. If you do have further questions or would like to follow up with the company, please feel free to contact us at nomair@allianceadvisors.com. That's NOMAIR@allianceadvisors.com. And with that, everyone, please disconnect from the webcast. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.